The air hung heavy and hot. The summer of 1998. Cicadas buzzed their relentless symphony. Four friends, Liam, Sarah, Max and Emily, wandered through the crowded aisles of the flea market. Laughter bounced off vintage clothes racks and dusty furniture. The scent of old books and forgotten treasures filled the air. It was a day for discovery, a day for adventure. Max, always drawn to the unusual, stopped at a table piled high with forgotten electronics. He dug through tangled cords and yellowed game boxes. His fingers brushed against something cold and smooth. A shiver ran down his spine. It was a video game cartridge. Unlike the others, it was unlabeled, a stark black casing with an almost magnetic pull. Intrigued, Max showed his find to the others. The cartridge seemed to radiate a strange energy. An unspoken curiosity wormed its way into their hearts. They decided to buy it, their anticipation buzzing like a live wire. Little did they know they were not choosing the game. The game had chosen them. The game drew them in with an irresistible allure. It started subtly, almost innocently. The graphics were rudimentary, the music an unsettling 8-bit melody. They chose their characters, their digital avatars staring back at them from the screen, but something felt off. It was as if the game knew them. As they delved deeper, a creeping unease settled over the group. The game began to echo their lives, their fears, their secrets. Places from their childhoods materialized within the pixelated world. Whispers of forgotten memories echoed through the speakers. The air grew heavy with a sense of dread. The room seemed to grow colder. The shadows in the corners deepened, stretching like grasping claws. The laughter died down, replaced by a tense silence broken only by the tapping of buttons and the unsettling soundtrack. The game was no longer a game. It was a mirror reflecting their deepest fears back at them. The friends found themselves at a crossroads. They could turn back, pretend it was all just a strange coincidence. But the allure of the game, the desire to understand its hold on them, was too strong. They pressed on, their excitement curdling into a chilling premonition. They were playing with forces they didn't understand. The game was a labyrinth of their shared past. Places they had visited as children, long-forgotten dreams, whispered secrets they thought were buried deep. It was as if the game had ripped open their minds and poured their subconscious onto the screen. Emily gasped as the game recreated her childhood home with unsettling accuracy. The old swing set where she used to play creaked in the digital wind, a stark reminder of a time before the shadows crept in. The game knew things it shouldn't, dredging up memories both cherished and painful. Max, usually the bravest of the group, felt a shiver crawl down his spine. He recognized the park from his nightmares, the one where he had lost his dog years ago. The digital trees seemed to whisper his name, their pixelated leaves rustling with unseen malice. The game was toying with them, peeling back the layers of their sanity. Sarah, always the sensitive one, felt the game's grip tightening around her. A deep-seated terror began to blossom in her chest. It started with a single image, a flickering streetlight casting long, menacing shadows on her childhood bedroom wall. Then came the whispers. Her name, spoken in a rasping voice that sent chills down her spine. The whispers seemed to come from the game, yet they resonated from the darkest corners of her mind. Her greatest fear, the one she kept locked away, was unleashed. It took the form of a shadowy figure that haunted her every move within the game. "It's just a game," Liam insisted, his voice trembling slightly. But even he couldn't deny the palpable shift in the atmosphere. The room was now undeniably colder, a damp chill seeping into their bones. They were trapped, not by physical restraints, but by the invisible chains of fear that the game had wrapped around them. Section 5. Liam's Nightmare. Liam, the pragmatist of the group, tried to rationalize the game's eerie accuracy, but even his logic crumbled under the weight of the unfolding horror. His skepticism was no match for the terror that bloomed on the screen. The game knew his secrets, the ones he'd buried deep within himself. It started subtly, the digital recreation of his childhood treehouse where he and his brother used to play, but the laughter of his brother, long gone, echoed through the speakers, distorted and laced with an unspeakable sorrow. It was a gut punch of grief, a wound ripped open. The game wasn't just showing them their pasts, it was twisting them, warping them into something sinister. Liam watched in horror as his digital avatar was tormented by shadowy figures that resembled his deceased family. The line between the game and reality blurred, his nightmare seeping into their world. Section 6. The darkness consumes Max. The game reached its crescendo. The air crackled with a malevolent energy. Their initial amusement had transformed into sheer terror. They were no longer playing the game. The game was playing them, twisting their past into a horrifying spectacle. It was Max, the one who had found the game, who became the focal point of its sinister attention. Max cried out, his eyes wide with terror, as the game displayed a scene ripped straight from his darkest nightmare. The figure he saw in his dreams, the one with eyes like burning coals, manifested on the screen. It reached out, its pixelated hand seeming to breach the barrier between the game and reality. The room plunged into an unnatural darkness. The only light came from the flickering screen, casting grotesque shadows that danced on the walls. The air grew heavy, suffocating. Then, with a deafening crackle and a blinding flash of light, Max was gone, vanished. Section 7. Burying the past. The remaining friends were left in stunned silence. The room was heavy with the stench of ozone, the lingering echo of the horror they had just witnessed. Emily collapsed to the floor, her sobs the only sound in the eerie quiet. Sarah and Liam clung to each other, their faces ashen with shock and fear. They knew they had to get rid of the game. The cartridge, now cold to the touch, seemed to pulse with a dark energy. It was a tangible representation of their terror, a cursed object that had claimed their friend. They couldn't let it hurt anyone else. With trembling hands, they gathered shovels and flashlights. In the dead of night, under a moonless sky, they buried the game deep in the earth, hoping to bury the horror along with it. They swore an oath of silence, vowing to never speak of the game or the terrible fate that had befallen their friend. Section 8. The curse lingers. Life moved on, but the shadow of that summer night stretched out long and menacing. The friends drifted apart, haunted by their shared trauma. They tried to outrun the memory of the game, the horror of Max's disappearance, but the curse was an insidious seed planted deep within their souls. Emily, once full of life, retreated into herself, her laughter replaced by a haunted silence. Liam, once a beacon of logic and reason, became consumed by a paranoia he couldn't shake. The world seemed full of shadows, whispers in the dark, lurking just beyond the edge of his vision. Sarah, forever marked by the game's personalized torment, was plagued by nightmares. The rasping voice that haunted her in the game followed her into her waking hours, a constant reminder of the terror she had experienced. The guilt was a heavy weight, a constant companion. Section 9. Unbreakable Chains. Years later, a faded newspaper clipping found its way to each of them. It was a picture of a recently discovered missing person case file, Max's case file. The date on the file was the day after he vanished, but how? Had he somehow escaped the game? Was he trapped somewhere in a digital purgatory? The game was gone, buried deep in the earth, but the curse lingered. It was a chilling reminder that some things can't be buried, some wounds never truly heal. The friends realized with sinking hearts that the game was merely a conduit. The real curse was the fear, the guilt, the unshakable feeling that they were forever bound to that horrific summer night. The game had taken Max, but it had left them with something far worse. The chilling knowledge that some games once played can never truly be over. The curse was not a tangible thing, but a darkness that clung to them, a constant whisper in the back of their minds. They were forever changed, bound together by a tragedy they could never escape. They were living proof that some games are best left unplayed.